Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's Mike Ames Show, where we're going to focus on feedback, all things feedback. And I'm joined by the marvelous Michael Ames, who apparently only has one jumper in his wardrobe. Hi, Mike. How you doing?
I'm very good, actually, Kirsty. Thank you. Yes, I know. This seems like I've only got one jumper. Supposing I had several versions of this jumper. I don't know. Anyway, look, enough of that gay banter. The biggest mistake I think that all of us can make is thinking that we know what our clients like and dislike about what we do for them. It's an assumption. Mostly it's fueled by the fact that people don't complain because we're British and we don't do that. That doesn't mean to say they're not displeased or even angry about what we're doing. They just don't voice it. And because of that, we can be providing a service which isn't quite bang on what they need. Worst case scenario, you know what? We lose the client. So today, we're actually joined by a professional listener. He's paid to talk to clients. So it's Darren Francis, RTZ Upstream. So Darren, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot, Mike. Hi, how are you doing? And hello, Kirsty. Thanks a lot for having me.
We're very excited.
So am I.
Very excited. So today we are going to talk about kind of feedback and listening to our clients. Why is it so important though? What is it about this that's so advantageous to you as a business owner or to somebody in business?
Well, I think it's I think it avoids you making the incorrect decisions and the incorrect going down the incorrect path that your business needs to go down. So you're actually, it's almost getting free consultancy. So you're saying to your clients, help us make our business decisions based on what you want as clients and customers. And of course, surprise, surprise, if you ask them, they'll tell you.
It's amazing, just want to reinforce that in a small way that one or two of you might have experienced. I went to a restaurant in the place we go to in Wales. I was on holiday last week, for those that didn't know. It's awesome. And a little place in Wales, little restaurant, haven't been there for 2 years because lockdown. Went there and same owners, but different staff, new people they've got in. And there were just 2 or 3 things that weren't quite right. Not big deals. Like they didn't tell my wife that one of the dishes that she'd ordered had shellfish in. She's allergic to it, so we had to swap and I had it. They didn't come over and check if we wanted an extra drink frequently enough. I did. I was the thirsty Mike Ames that night. Right. They're just small things. Now, I know no one would do this, but had they bothered to ask me, I'd have told them. And then they could have just improved their business a little bit and made themselves a little better. If they did that for every customer every night, by the end of the year, they would be outstanding. And that's just one small example, isn't it, of how listening can realign you with your clients.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's actually still, I mean, in the area which is mainly professional services, it's still a differentiator, just the fact of doing it. So the mere fact of asking, when we're speaking to clients, for example, of law firms, they often comment that actually no one else is doing this, or not many other people are doing it. So you're immediately on the front foot just by doing it. And I know we're going to come on to how to do it and what to ask and what the agenda looks like and all that sort of good stuff. But just by doing it, you're immediately on the front foot.
I agree 100% with that. In a time when we're all trying to differentiate ourselves, this is a very real differentiator, isn't it?
It is, absolutely.
Massively so. We had a client, we do a thing which we don't sell. We just provide for our clients sometimes. It's not a thing that we sell. Darren actually sells this service to his clients, but we just do it, called VotC. And we say to our clients, put it in your proposals. Put it in when you're pitching for a piece of work, make it clear that you constantly realign yourself with your client base, looking for problems, looking for areas that you can improve, looking for innovations that you can bring in that the client wants. And we had a case, it was earlier in the year now, I'm just trying to think what day, November. Oh, it was in the spring, actually. Someone did this, submitted a proposal, and they said they won it. Obviously, they put a big proposal in, but the client had remarked upon it.
Absolutely.
Said, wow,
and we have evidence of that as well, because sort of another part of my life is actually helping firms, mainly law firms, with their bids and proposals. And when we get to the stage after, for example, a winning bid, where we do the debrief and the feedback on the proposal, we've had loads of examples where clients have said, actually, one of the things that we quite like the sound of was this client listening. Tell us more about that. But actually, the fact that it was in the proposal, it looks good. It looked part of the added value package. And it's interesting because it's something that can be presented as added value to a client. You don't, most organizations don't do it with every client. And again, we can come on to how you choose the clients to put into a client listening program. But actually, it's a piece of added value. And when you get to the point where your clients are saying, okay, you're one of our suppliers. We buy from you. What added value are we getting, or what added value are you proposing? Always put, if you do client listening, or if you're going to do client listening, put that in as an added value piece, because even though it's using up your client's time, it's still added value, because the outcome for them will be a whole raft of stuff that's just fantastic.
But do you know what that is? I think it's for two reasons. Firstly, I think all of us as people who consume things and buy things feel that we don't have an opinion asked for enough, like me in the restaurant, okay? But also in our business, we secretly know that there's areas that we probably don't do as well as we should do. And this brings it right out. And I think it's a really powerful thing that makes a big difference to people when they see it.
Yeah.
Now I know Kirsty wants to crack on because she's, yes, I can see you itching. Yes. So let's just move on, Kirsty. All right. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, I think let me just summarize. I think what we just said there, Darren, is that not only can this feedback allow you to find ways to develop and improve your service that avoids the dead ends that sound shiny, but your clients don't really care about because they're the ones telling you that they care about it. But it's also a really good way of making your clients feel valued, understood, appreciated, because you're taking the time to understand what they need and what will make their service better. So it's sort of a double whammy, as it were. Does that make sense? Right?
Oh, sorry, go on.
Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right. And it's free consultancy. Some people pay Bain and McKinsey and all these boys enormous sums of money to get advice that you can just get from your own clients. Free, almost free.
Your clients know everything that you need. You just got to liberate that knowledge. That's the deal. Sorry, if I just want to put this out there, if anybody's listening to this who does do some kind of voice of the customer or listening project or something where they actually actively seek feedback from their clients, could they just put something in the comments, just explain what you do? Or if you've done it and seen a benefit from it, I'd like to see that as well. So if you've got a chance, I mean, it might not be for everyone, but stick it in the comments.
Fantastic. Okay, so now let's move on to the nitty gritty. Let's move on to the details. So we sort of briefly discussed earlier sort of what the process is, Darren, and you sort of broke it down into about 4 different things. So the first one that we've got is setting objectives. Now, what exactly does that mean?
Well, I think it means principally be selfish. So what do you want out of it? What do you want? Do you want more client retention? Do you want to sell them more products, more stuff? Do you want to increase your income? So start with what it is you want, and also if you start like that, you'll have an easier internal sell to get your own team on board with it, which is sometimes an issue. So think about what your financial objectives might be for each client, and bearing in mind that for some clients it might be that they maintain their level of income. So it's about retention. So think about what those objectives are. And also in the mix, you may be aware of 1 or 2 client relationships that are at risk. And it might just be something like, you know what it's like, sometimes you just think, oh, this has gone a wee bit frosty recently, and actually I haven't heard from this person, or they're not returning my calls as quick as they used to, or indeed at all. What's gone on? I don't think I've done anything wrong. I don't think I've done anything to offend them, but actually they've gone a bit quiet. So is this a relationship at risk? And therefore, within that basket of objectives, you might have 1 or 2 clients where you think, well, actually, I'm just going to use this as a means to check up on this relationship, to make sure that it's still as solid as I think it is.
That is a very, very good point indeed, because most people show their displeasure by using the door. Yeah. And the time you realize you've done something wrong, it's a bit late because they've gone. But you can sometimes pick up the signs if you're looking for them. Yeah. There's some coolness of the relationship a little bit, or like you say, not returning the calls, not being as friendly, not spending as much time with you.
Absolutely.
It could be they're very busy. Could be they're snowed under, that happens. But it could be that you're not you were there, you're now there, and that's not the same. So that's really good. The other thing as well, I like what you just said on the setting objectives, is otherwise you drift into these things and it's all over the place, isn't it? It's not like a cohesive project. It's, well, we could ask this, we could ask that. I think it is important to figure out what you want from it, as you said, and then everything that you do is aimed at that.
Exactly. And of course, don't forget, it needs to be convincing internally in your own organization. And the larger your own organization is, the more difficult it is to convince people internally. Because so if you at least looks as if it's structured and if it's got objectives attached to it, then you're more likely to succeed internally to get the thing going.
When we do it, I'm amazed at how few people actually want it. And I've figured out why it is, Darren. I wonder if you agree. It's because they don't really want to know, because they think they're going to get some bad news. So better not to know, isn't it?
It's fear. It's fear itself. Yeah. I mean, people are absolutely terrified by this. And I mean, one of the first jobs that we often have to do is deal with that, because actually there's nothing to be afraid of. You know, the majority of this feedback, the majority of this engagement isn't about, oh, they've done these things wrong, or I'm not happy about this. Most of it's incredibly constructive. And that's why I've described it as free consultancy, because it is free consultancy. It's getting people to suggest things that you can do better or that they will want in the future, that enables you then to build propositions that you can sell.
It's amazing, isn't it? If you want to know your USPs, ask your clients.
Absolutely.
And USPs, I don't know what my USPs. Well, your clients do, because they use you, so they've already made that decision. You can bring that out as part of your listening project, can't you?
Exactly.
Okay, fantastic. So we have set our objectives. We have figured out what we want to get from this program, from this thing that we're doing. So the second thing we've got here is about choosing the right people. So you already mentioned sort of some decisions that you can do with clients if maybe your relationship if you're a bit suspicious about how happy they are. But you also mentioned your team as well. So what kind of things do you mean around that?
Well, there's two things here. Starting off with the team, I think you've got to assume that. You have to be aware of something called conversational narcissism, and depending on depending on which sector you're in. I'm sort of laughing here because I operate often in the legal sector. Your sector and your clients might be brimming with narcissists. I know that's difficult to believe, but maybe we've all got a little bit.
Darren, I know that.
Yeah, I know. Maybe we've all got a little bit of narcissism in us, but actually, what you definitely don't want is a narcissist involved in your feedback program, because they will muck it up and they'll not listen and they won't get the information that you need. And it's that person that. Yeah, go on.
Does that mean someone coming in with their own agenda? That what they want it to be? Is that what that means?
Yeah, it's someone coming in with their own agenda, but also someone who's kind of. There's a lot of people who are quite keen on themselves, aren't there? And
very polite way of putting it.
What you want to try to find a good person at this is somebody who's not necessarily massively keen on themselves at the expense of everything else. And so you want to find somebody who isn't too keen on themselves to do this, because it's that thing where, we're all slightly guilty of it. You know, when you're in the pub or something and you're someone else is telling some story about what they did or who they met or whatever, and all you're thinking about is what you're going to say in response to this, to the point where you actually miss what it is they're saying. Well, it's kind of conversational narcissism is a sort of writ large version of that, where people just don't hear anything other than preparing in their heads what they're about to say. That's who you don't want on your client listening team.
I dated a lot of those people.
Our webinar. Do you remember, Kirsty? We had that professional listener came on. He was we should get him back on the show.
Negotiation.
He was negotiator.
Oh, wow.
Richard. I can't think of his exact name now. He was really good, but he said the same thing. They're just waiting for their turn to speak.
Yeah.
We all do it, don't we? I think.
I think we all do it to some degree, but the trick in choosing a good team or a good person is to not do it. And then think about. I know I would say this anyway. I know I would say this, but maybe think about not having anyone in your organization do it, so that it's completely independent. But actually, I know. Yeah, Mike, you're in favor of that. I think it's better to do it with some of your team than not at all. But actually, if you're going to do it right, get it done independently.
Well, I think, as we were discussing earlier, whether you do it internally or externally, you can hire and train a virtual assistant to do it for you if you want to get the right person. It doesn't matter. You don't have to spend a lot of money on it if you don't want to. But don't have the person doing it that has any connection with the client at all.
Yeah.
None.
Yeah,
They have to be in a separate department or a separate job or something, but they are not connected. So basically their stance is, well, look, you can say what you like to me. It don't make any difference. You know, you can say what you want. I'm just going to take it down and try and understand
it makes the client more comfortable as well, because the client will be less comfortable having this conversation with someone with whom they have a day-to-day operational relationship.
Yeah, because I don't want to insult people. I mean, it's the same thing, you know, like if, as a British person, if someone puts food in front of me that's horrible and they go, is it nice? I go, it's yummy. I'm not going to, that's with a waitress I'm never going to see again. If I'm doing it with a client that I have a daily relationship with, then I'm going to find it even harder to give them bad feedback, aren't I?
It's great.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Okay.
So choose your own team, choose your client listening team carefully, and always be aware of the people that stick their hands up and saying that this has to be me. Yeah. And then having done that, you need to choose your clients as well. And that's, again, we could spend all day on this, but there's a couple of quick sort of points here on this, one of which is newish, I think, and something that sort of I've developed and been thinking about quite a lot recently. There's a couple of obvious columns into which you might put your clients who you would choose for a client listening program, because you can't do it with everybody. And the first might be, obviously, income. So it might be your most valuable clients. And that's obvious. And they will never not be in the frame for being involved in a client listening program. And the second might be your most strategically valuable, or those that you perceive to be most strategically valuable. So perhaps clients who may not be top of the pile in terms of income right now, but they've got the potential to be, or there's another reason why they're strategically important. They may be
it's an area you want to develop.
Maybe an area, exactly, Kirsty, or maybe they're in a sector maybe they're a big name in a sector where you've got more valuable clients, but because they're the big name in the sector, you want to keep them. But there's another column that's what I'm finding at the minute is that more and more organizations are actually taking advantage of this idea of free consultancy from their clients as part of a client listening program. And consequently, what they are doing is they are implementing change and in some cases spending a lot of money on change that's client driven. And that's a big thing, and that's quite a big leap. And again, in my sector, which is professional services and law firms in particular, that's quite a big move for a lot of firms to do that. And therefore, a third column needs to become choosing clients carefully whom you trust enough to give you feedback that you want to act on. And that's really difficult because that's hugely subjective. I mean, it's virtually impossible to measure that, but it might well be, and we're really into single figures here. It might well be that there are 1, 2, 3, 4 clients, or more likely individuals within client organizations. This is about the strength of individuals whom you know because of their successes, their background, or what they've achieved, or whatever it is. You know that they will not give their opinions lightly, and they will come up with really good stuff that's worth actually you then spending money implementing. And then conversely, avoid clients that might be slightly more frivolous in that respect.
On that, then, can I be devil's advocate? Because I get asked this all the time. No, my clients are way too busy to give you any time for that. What do you say to that?
That's just not true. The fact, I mean, the thing is, it's almost a wicked approach, because it almost the person that says that is so narcissistic potentially that they actually don't think you're ever going to speak to their client. So, just to take a basic example, you email the client and say, I email your client and say, we're doing a program at the moment. Little bit of background about client listening. Would you like to take part? Invariably, the response is yes, absolutely, I'd love to take part, and I can't wait. And
we get the same thing as well. We get the same thing. Hours go between 30 and 45 minutes each interview. And the client say, no, you're never going to get that. The difference is we're not trying to sell them anything. We're giving them a voice. Of course, they want to use that. They don't want you to ring you up and spend 3/4 of an hour while you sell to them. They're too busy for that. But a chance to improve and tell you what they think 100%. Okay.
You've had people who won't let you get off the phone, haven't you, Mike? Like 2 hours later, like, I need to go. Okay, right. So the next thing that we spoke about is this client feedback versus client exploration. So can we sort of define what the two of these mean for those out there like me who maybe don't necessarily know?
Well, the differentiation here is something that I've given quite a lot of thought to, and it's partly as a result of the fact that client feedback and CX has become, CX in particular, being client and customer experience, have become massively buzzy. They're all over the place at the minute. If you're looking at social media, if you're looking at business press articles, the idea of CX is massive, and it's a good thing. And it's a good thing to have your clients express their opinion on the services that you provide. I think the danger comes whenever you allow that to bleed into being the only definition of what client engagement is and what client listening is. My view is, and again, it's just my view, loads of people will disagree, but there has to, the differentiation between the two should probably be about 25% feedback, 75% exploration.
When you say exploration, are you talking about trying to get to know a little bit more about them? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's about them. Client feedback in CX tends to be about the firm or the company that right. The client's giving the feedback about. And that's fine. That's fine. That's useful and it has its place. And you should always do it. Exploration is more about the client and the client organization. And that's the bit that they will find most resonant because obviously everybody likes talking about themselves. Who doesn't? And so the exploration bit is the bit where you get into their current challenges, their future plans, what their risk profile is, what their worries are, whether they've got new products in the pipeline, all that stuff. And also interestingly, not only will that get the client more engaged, they will find it cathartic, but also it means often that, or I find often that that's in terms of monetizing that, in terms of taking that away and developing a product or a service to deliver, it's more immediate and it's more high value. You get more high value monetization out of an exploratory conversation with the client than you do about the feedback. Now, the feedback's still important. I'm not saying we shouldn't do it, but I think that in putting it together, in putting a program together, getting the balance right between feedback and exploration is crucial, absolutely crucial.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with your definition. You said some people don't. Well, I do, as a matter of fact. So, for what it's worth,
I would as well. So we did have a comment as well, which I wanted to bring up, which was Susie. So she also has never had a client say no to a listening interview, and I've never had any client say no to a feedback of any kind. Honestly, even testimonials they say yes to. So.
Yeah, and I think that's right. Absolutely. Thanks for that, Susie. And yeah, the only negative you would get would be, I can't do it now, but I can do it next month. Something like that.
Or need to reschedule. It's one of the first things to get rescheduled in my experience. But yeah. Okay, so what we've done so far is we've set the objectives, we've picked the people that we're talking to and are going to be doing the talking, whether that's your team or external consultant. And we've sort of got the balance between client feedback and client exploration. And then this is sort of the next area that we wanted to look at, isn't it? It's the conducting the conversation. Now, we also said we could spend an entire 25 minutes on this, but if you were to give like kind of one or two tips about conducting the conversation, like one just major tip, what would you say is the tip for that?
I think major tips: don't sell and don't go to solution mode. So if there's lots of stuff around this, and I realize we need to be careful on time, but there's a lot of stuff we could get into around body language, around for all the various biases and the structure and the how we even lean forward and lean back and all that sort of stuff. There's a lot of stuff we can get into here, but I think the key things, if there's one or two key things, is don't be tempted to try and sell, even if your client says, "Oh, we've got this big new project and we haven't yet found a team of accountants or lawyers or estate agents do." Don't even at that point, don't bite. You can bite the next day. That's fine. Take it back to the ranch, explore it, and develop your proposition or develop what you're going to say to the client next. But don't try to sell to them during that particular meeting, because they'll remember that. They'll remember that they've been asked to take part in client listening, and the whole thing's been set up to be completely non-threatening. And then suddenly someone rocks up and tries to sell them a load of stuff.
I've got to tell you, we got a story around that. Pete does our VOTC. He went on a course Oh, this was a wee while ago before lockdown. Went on a course, and he said it was a great course. And he came back, gets a phone call from someone saying, "Oh, I'm just looking for some feedback, on what." Yeah, okay, I'll help you with that. We do it for other people, so that's fine. And answers the questions. At the end of it, said, "Oh, and would you be interested in this? Like, you're trying to sell to me now? Really?" That kind of invalidates. If you want to ring me up and sell to me, that's fine, because I'm going to say I'm not interested or I'm interested. But it was the fact that it had invalidated the listening element. It's just a veiled opportunity to sell, which is another reason why you should never let salespeople do it, if you ask me.
Exactly. So it's a branch of, it tends to be a branch of sort of business development, stroke marketing, and very often, but it's definitely not one for marketeers to do.
Or anyone that's selling to that client, because they'll just,
absolutely.
I can't help myself. So, you
just can't. That's why Pete does it, who's very much more
I think that's a really great tip. And I think the other thing I would kind of add to that on the side is don't push back. You can explore and understand, but you can't say, well, I don't agree with you on that.
Or explain it away.
It's about
no, that's right. I mean, exactly. You can't push back and you can't sell, but that's at that. Don't forget, that's only at that point, because there's nothing that the client will love more than, a few days or even a couple of weeks after the client listening meeting or however you've set it up, getting a document, not necessarily a document, but something back from you saying, look, thanks very much for taking part. I've cogitated and ruminated on some of the stuff you've said. Actually, I think it's interesting for these 3 reasons. And actually, I think there's something we can do for you to help you with these challenges, and almost give them a little solution dashboard following the thing. And that's where you can start and explore with them where your opportunities are. And they won't mind that at all, because they'll see that as part of the relationship process that's outside that one client listening session.
As an external company, when we do it, because obviously we can't sell anything to anybody, what Pete sometimes says, if that opportunity crops up, is, would you like me to get someone from whoever it is he's doing it for to give you a call on that? And they either say yes or they say no, and that's absolutely fine.
Well, you see, the thing is, even that is dicey, because what if they say no? Whereas if they say no, then you're kind of barred from doing it. But if you don't ask them, then you can do it anyway. You can follow up anyway with it.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But as an external, we don't always.
They don't know that we haven't told them, so it doesn't. I suppose as an external, correct? Yeah. Okay, so we are kind of. I'm looking at the time. I think this has been great. A little bit of lively banter at the end. I do enjoy it. So Darren, let me just summarize this, and you can tell me if it's what you think is right. And then at the end, we're going to come to you for if somebody is thinking about doing this and getting that sort of feedback from their clients. What's the first thing they should do? So first of all, you have to set your objectives. You have to know what you want from this feedback, what you are focusing on. And you can do multiple feedbacks in a year. So you don't have to do it all in one go. You do this one now and another one later. So set the objective. Then you pick the right people. So that is also your clients, whether that's strategic clients, areas you want to grow into, areas, relationships that are potentially a bit dicey, or something else, big area, big names or something like that. As well as who actually in your team is going to do this, whether it's an external consultant, whether it's somebody from an opposing team, but never get kind of the person who's giving the service to do it. I think that's the one thing we all agree on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, figure out that balance between your client feedback and your client exploration. And then once you've done that, just conduct the conversation, actually do it. And when you're doing it, remember, never push back, never sell ever, under any circumstances ever, because it completely nullifies everything. But you can potentially take that information and give them some sort of solution board or summarization of what you learned from them. Is that a decent summarization, do you think?
That's an excellent summarization, Kirsty.
Thank you. It's my job. It's my job. Okay, so now we're going to come to you, Darren. So somebody's watching this and they're thinking, right, I want to get started on this, Darren. What is the first thing that I should do? What is it that I should do in order to get started in my journey?
I think the first thing to do is be aware that there's no minimum number here. So don't be afraid. It doesn't have to be a leviathan of a project. There's no minimum number. To get you going, pick one client, ring them up or arrange to meet them, and go through maybe 3 or 4 key points about what their plans are, what they think of you, and maybe a couple of other things that gets you off the mark, and it gets you to a position where you can see a bit of value coming your way, as well as a bit of value going the client's way potentially.
I think if you do 3 of those with just clients who will take a call from you,
Yeah,
I think you'll see the benefit. I think it'll just
definitely.
be great. And that's not even a proper structured like project, but you will see the benefit. You'll learn things you didn't know.
Yeah,
Definitely. That's a great piece of advice. I love that
Yeah.
tip.
okay, good.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Darren. This has been a
Pleasure.
truly incredible program. I've really, really enjoyed listening to you. It's been very simple and understanding. So thank you very much for that. Mike, what are we covering next week? I think it's about
Well,
LinkedIn.
we're
isn't
not
it?
here. We're somewhere else. So it's a recording of us. But I don't know whether you're aware, but LinkedIn has just added a new newsletter function. So you can send newsletters out through LinkedIn, get people to subscribe. So we're going to be talking about that and the whole concept of newsletters as well. So it's going to be great.
Excited. We're very excited. So once again, Darren, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you,
very
Darren.
much appreciated.
Thanks a lot, guys. I look forward to the next show.
Thank you to everyone, our viewers, and thanks to Mike, and we'll see you all next week.
We will.